Hi everyone, I just want to do a quick little celestial weather warning for this week. It's been a bit of a crazy week so far already with the Aquarius full moon and all that big energy, and there's a couple of other aspects coming up this week that I just wanted to give a little bit of heads up about because they are big energies. Some of you may be experiencing them already. There's some good energy going on.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to.
I was trying to do it on Instagram at the same time. Don't know if that's really going to work. So basically, today we have Mercury moving into Leo, and we also have Jupiter tomorrow moving into back into Aquarius. And at the same time that it moves back into Aquarius at 29 degrees, it is going to be opposing Mars at the 29th degree of Leo as it moves into Leo. So that is quite a strong energy. It has a lot of positive potentials as well. So Jupiter kind of rules optimism and a sense of beneficence, positivity. Mars, of course, is the lesser malefic, so it brings kind of more challenging experiences, conflicts, aggression, etc. But when it's paired with Jupiter, Jupiter expands things and makes things bigger. So it can potentially make that Mars sort of impulsiveness and aggressiveness more amplified. But at the same time, it can also produce a really focused determination to turn struggle and difficulty, which would be signified by Mars, towards some meaningful purpose, which is Jupiter. So there's quite a strong spiritual potential in this dynamic and in the dynamics that are coming up in our life this week, in our lives this week, that may be pushing us to make some decisions that are difficult, that are going to be really meaningfully positive and beneficial in the long term. So that Mars Jupiter energy is definitely kind of talking about the having the courage of our convictions is a term that definitely relates to that idea, to committing to something that is going to be improving, expanding over time, although it may not be easy initially. That is definitely a very Jupiter opposing Mars kind of energy. There may also be a real sense of excitement around generating a new project and wanting to kind of improve one's social standing or one's place in society, etc. Because Mars is in Leo, Mars is wanting to kind of, take action and initiate things, and Leo is a sign of like, I'm going to be a star kind of thing. But Jupiter moving into Aquarius tempers that because Jupiter is an ideological planet and it represents our kind of, beliefs and philosophies and spiritual convictions. And in the sign of Aquarius, it is ruling what's good for everyone. How do we apply our beliefs and intentions and our actions, convictions, our courage? How do we apply our courage to improve the lot of everyone? So there's definitely a really strong spiritual connection that, but at the same time, it can amplify Martian themes like anger, violence, intensity. One of the reasons that I wanted to do this update is because there are opportunities even when things are really difficult. And it's good to know ahead of time that things could get difficult, because then when we remember that, we're a little bit prepared, and we can also see how we can turn it more to our advantage in terms of how we're growing and learning, etc. And so one of the things that I have definitely noticed already around me in my own life and in the lives of people I'm close to is that there have been these kind of very big, painful, kind of traumatic disruptions that have been occurring, and yet they're bringing about big breakthroughs. So if things do get really challenging, keep that in mind. This is a week of breakthroughs, because the other thing that happens tomorrow, and this aspect continues until Friday, is that we have a hammer of Thor with Venus at the apex. Venus rules love, relationships, beauty, harmony, connection, living a good life. She's at the apex of this aspect, which is a triangle made of purely hard aspects. And at the base of that triangle, there's a square between Eris, the goddess of discord, and Pluto, the god of death and the underworld. Eris is an asteroid, but she is a planet that signifies the part of ourselves and the aspects of society that are ostracized, disregarded, and left out of the conversation. So we may experience situations this week, either in ourselves, in our own relationship to ourselves, or quite possibly, most likely, in the events around us. So either we'll be watching them on the news or they may be happening in our lives, because the aspect of a hammer of Thor is 2 Sesky squares, and that's a square and a half. And they manifest, so a square is a tension, a really uncomfortable and stressful tension that forces us to take action. So it's a manifesting opportunity. Sesky squares are a square and half a square, and they usually manifest as external events. And again, they motivate us. They're stressful, difficult, pressure-filled scenarios that force us to take action and to change a situation, to make something new of a situation. So they're very positive, actually, but hammers of Thor are really difficult, I find. They have great potential. I have a hammer of Thor in my chart, and a number of people I'm very close to also have hammers of Thor. And one of the experiences that we can have with a hammer of Thor is the experience of receiving really heavy criticism that we don't really understand where it's coming from, and it doesn't feel justified. It can feel really judged, really attacked, and misunderstood. And there's also a feeling that other people have of being intensely dealt with. A hammer of Thor refers to the hammer of Thor. Funnily enough, of course, Thor was a Norse god, and he was like the king of the gods, like Jupiter, Zeus/Jupiter. And Thor had this hammer fashioned for him as a result of a kind of a trick by Loki, the god of mischief. And that hammer became the source of Thor's power in the world, basically, which says something to us about this aspect this week. And for anyone who has one in their chart, it is a source of power, but we need to learn how to manage it. And so whatever comes through this aspect this week that may be very difficult and may feel like a blow, because Thor's hammer was wielded like a weapon. It wasn't just a hammer for hammering, nails. Excuse me. It was a weapon that Thor used to smite the giants. So, on the positive side, somebody may feel smitten this week in love and romance, because Venus is at the apex of this triangle. But there is almost undoubtedly going to be some intensity in that process, because Eris, as I said, is at the bottom of this square, and she's squaring Pluto. And Eris is that part of ourselves that feels ostracized and abandoned and ignored and ridiculed. It's a hurt part of ourselves. The story of Eris in Greek mythology was that she was the only god who was not invited to a wedding, because they said, don't invite the goddess of discord here, she'll cause problems. And so of course she was like, well, F you guys, I'm going to cause you a problem that you're not going to forget. And she basically played on people's own hubris and their own arrogance and egotism. And she threw down a golden apple into the wedding party that had inscribed on it, for the most beautiful. And then the 3 big goddesses, Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera, all here. I can't remember now. I'll hopefully I'll remember that in a second. Anyway, I'll keep talking. They fought over it, and Zeus didn't want to get stuck between them by making the decision of who was the most beautiful, and so he appointed Paris, a young shepherd, to make the decision. And Paris, they all kind of campaigned him, and Athena offered him wisdom, Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world, and Hera offered him power. I can't remember, sorry guys. Anyway, he chose the most beautiful woman in the world who happened to be married, and that caused the Trojan War, which lasted for decades. So really full-on fallout out of, the disruptions that are brought to the surface that we don't acknowledge perhaps day to day. So the point being that we may have things brought to the surface for us in the next couple of days that show us where we feel maligned or left out. We may also be confronted with our own jealousy, with how we might want to cause some kind of retribution or vengeance in response to those kinds of experiences of being left out. We may also just see it played out that other people's hubris and arrogance kind of catches up with them. That may be seen very publicly. But with this square between Eris and Pluto, Pluto is the planet of death and destruction, of regeneration, transformation, and the emergence of new possibilities that are really transformed. So Pluto means riches. And all of the Earth's riches come from the ground, but they are also the result of death and decay. So there's this cyclical process going on. With psychologically, what we often see with Pluto is the surfacing of very deep, buried traumatic material. And this is what we're kind of going to be seeing in various ways. Also with Eris and Venus in the mix in the world, we may see some stuff that's really dealing with sexual trauma, power dynamics, abuses and misuses of power. I think that we might see some just desserts and some justice come about because Jupiter is moving back into Aquarius, and that's what Jupiter in Aquarius is really good at doing. I'm looking forward to that, to seeing a bit of justice being dished out. But what I wanted to say was really pay attention to what is coming up for you, what you're noticing in the world, and how that is speaking to deeper themes inside yourself in terms of what you're trying to transform in your life, especially in relationships, and especially in terms of what you are trying to achieve in your own life and in the world. What is a meaningful place to put your energy, even though it's challenging? What we can create through this dynamic between needing to take action on something that requires our courage and our convictions, and the knowing the positive and benefic results that could occur as a result of that, both for ourselves in our own lives and in the world. My main message was anything else I needed to touch on as well. Friday as well, of course, Venus moves into Virgo, and that's the sun is also approaching an opposition to Saturn, which is challenging. Now, Venus moving into Virgo is also a bit challenging. Venus can do great things in Virgo. She can achieve a lot, but that can also bring some intensity to Venusian themes. So issues relating to women, relationships, love, can feel a little bit harder when Venus is in Virgo. Sunday, we have all this time Mercury, who has moved into Leo now, and so is kind of answering to the sun. The sun's moving closer to this opposition towards Saturn, which puts some limitations and some obstacles and some obstructions in the way. Mercury is also under the beams of the sun. So that means that Mercury is not able to kind of out and out shine in the glory of Leo as much as it would like to, because it's hidden by the sun's rays. The sun is in its ruling sign, it's in its domicile. So it is... my calendars, sorry, bing, bing, bing. So it is actually in a really good place. It's like the the sun is like the king, and so Mercury is like its prime diplomat, its advisor, but it's in the background. Mercury's in the background, so it can't sort of go out and big up itself and achieve all that it wants on its own terms. It is serving the king, and it will emerge after Sunday. You know, it's going to take a while for it to emerge as an evening star, and that gives it some extra sort of wisdom actually, and power and magic. And then Venus in Virgo is will eventually answer to that Mercury, so that gives Venus a little bit of help too. And then Mars will also be in Virgo. Mars is really a lot more effective and has a lot more benefic or positive productive power in Virgo when it moves in, and it's going to be moving into Virgo. I haven't actually written that down. I'll have to come, that'll be another update anyway. I just wanted to share this stuff. You know, it's our our first day out of lockdown. I put a jacket on, wearing earrings, about to go out into the world, a bit scared about dealing with all the traffic that I'm going to have to encounter. I am an introvert. I quite love aspects of lockdown. I love most of lockdown, except for, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit of this, and I hope that maybe it helps you guys be able to channel some of that energy if it's challenging, and if it's feels a bit stressful and, you know, triggering and painful, that it's not going to last long. It'll last into Friday, and then it will shift out. I forgot to mention the thing about Sunday, Mercury being under the beams of the sun, is that on Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m, the sun and Mercury are cazimi in Leo. One of the other good things that Mercury in Leo under the beams of the sun is good for is any kind of creative, artistic activity, using the mind to create ideas, to write, to do anything that is expressive, but not necessarily broadcasting it yet, because it's still hidden beneath the beams of the sun. But on Sunday at 6 p.m. AEST time, Mercury and the sun will be cazimi, which means they'll be exact. Mercury is in the throne, the chariot of the sun, in the same degree, and that's a very, very powerful Mercury. Does not last long. It literally is only that day. So if you have some kind of creative project or anything that you're really wanting to kind of harness your mind towards and bring out into the world, that deals with your aspirations, your ambitions, what you really, really, really care about and want to make happen, do it on Sunday, late afternoon, early evening. And there's a mystic rectangle that day, which adds a bit of extra magic and power to it. The moon's also exalted in Taurus on Sunday, and it's conjunct Uranus, which wants us to be innovative in how we approach, you know, the things that we're doing in our day that day. And it's trining Venus in Virgo, so making things happen, improving things, improving systems, improving health, all of those kinds of things. So anyway, big love to you all, guys, and I hope that there is some really interesting power and magic and transitions, shifts that bring a sense of liberation ultimately out of these kind of tricky aspects. That's ultimately what, you know, I think they're kind of profound at revealing the shifts that come as a result. And now more than ever, we really need to pay attention to what the benefits actually are in these difficult times that we are living through. Big love to you all, and I'll speak to you again soon. All right, bye, ciao. I can turn it off.